It's Michael Bennet, Democrat from Colorado. We played earlier, Senator, your very fiery speech on the Senate floor. But before I get to that, and I get your frustration, are there glimmers of hope? Is this green shoots? Is that light at the end of the tunnel, or is that a freight train coming at us?
I think those are all wonderful metaphors, and I choose to believe that they're green shoots rather than a freight train coming at us. This thing has gone on for far too long. There's not a person in this building virtually who doesn't want this government reopened, and the question is whether we can get to a rational deal between the leaders and with the President of the United States. And that is an open question as we stand here right now.
Well, it's interesting. You used the word rational. The President, which our viewers just heard, used the word reasonable. And I guess that all of this is going to be in the eye of the beholder. What do you think the President means by reasonable? He's looking for a down payment of some sort for his barrier. What does that sound to you?
I don't have any idea. And what I worry about with him, and again, I want us to achieve a deal because I want our government reopened again. This is not our government, by the way. It's the American people's government. We want their government reopened again. And the problem on this issue, as on other issues, is that the president is so volatile that 1 minute he's saying one thing. You just heard him say we need more legal immigration in the United States of America. His White House has been saying we should be cutting legal immigration in the United States by 50%. You know, it's not like there's an abundance of clarity that comes out of there. But we should hope for the best, and I hope that Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell are going to come to a deal that will allow the American people to actually begin this exercise in self-government again.
And I know a group of about 15 to 20 of you were trying to cobble together your own compromise. Where does that stand?
I actually, Chuck, was not in that group. Usually I am.
Yes, you are. My apologies. You were on one of my lists.
Usually I am, but this time I wasn't because I thought that there was only one person that could make a decision about whether there was going to be a deal or not, and that was Donald Trump. There was nobody here was going to be able to do it. There was no permission slip that was going to come from the White House. And until that happened, and it sounds like tonight maybe it is finally happening, we weren't going to make progress.
You really lost patience today on the Senate floor. It was something else. You showed a lot of frustration there. And why?
Well, it's not just this episode. So the reason I lost my patience was that Ted Cruz was on the floor, the senator from Texas, bemoaning the fact that Coast Guard folks aren't getting paid, which, by the way, they should be getting paid. All these federal employers should be being paid. But I remembered sitting in that chamber when Ted Cruz shut the government down to read green eggs and ham and whatever else he was doing, while Colorado was being flooded and people were literally dying in my state when this federal government was shut down over stupid, petty politics. And I found it disgraceful that he would be on the floor saying what he was saying, having perpetrated the shutdown before. But even more important than that, from my point of view, Chuck, is that the last 10 years of our politics in Washington, we have been tyrannized by these guys in the Freedom Caucus and by Ted Cruz, who's a fellow traveler with them, who have imposed their very idiosyncratic view on America. And I think it is time for us to get out of this mess that we're in. But it's not just about the shutdown. It's our failure to invest in our infrastructure. It's our failure to educate our children. It's our failure to take care of alliances around the world. All of this stuff at a time when China is rising and Russia's pushing out matters a lot. And we seem to have lost track of the stuff that really matters. If you were to listen to President Trump, you would think the most pressing issue in America is not that millions of people don't have health insurance. It's not that millions of poor kids get terrible educations. It's that we have to build his version of border security, which he calls a wall. It's not the most important issue in America. And as I was saying on the floor earlier today, you know, I was part of the Gang of Eight. That was one that I was in, where we negotiated $46 billion of border security, of real border security, including 350 miles of...
Let me ask you this, because you pointed out your frustrations with the Senate, and you pointed out that it is a minority of a minority, essentially, that is pulling some strings here, particularly in congressional politics. I've had plenty of people now ask me, Why is it that you can stop paying people with the government? Why is it that ever happens? Is there going to be a real movement now to essentially figure out a way to make it impossible to at least stop the flow of money to federal government workers when there's a political spat?
You mean to keep it going when there's a political
Correct.
spat, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, look, the only people that are not hurt by this behavior is craven politicians. Those are the only people. Everyone else is hurt. And we should take it off the table. We shouldn't shut the government down for politics. You know, no other government in America shuts itself down over politics. No local government, no school district. I used to be a school superintendent. No state government ever does it. None of our industrialized, countries do it. The president was saying, "Oh no, beware of becoming Venezuela," and I certainly don't want to be Venezuela. But we have to do a hell of a lot better job here in this republic, attending to the business that the American people need us to attend to. And this whole drama, this doesn't help.
One of the things we haven't yet seen is you guys actually getting into fisticuffs, as we see sometimes in, I think it's like governments in Southeast Asia. It feels like that it's usually out there where they actually come to fisticuffs. How bad is how bad is the divide in the Senate, or is this really driven by the president? I mean, are you guys unable to work with each other? Is it this bad now?
Look, we are able to work with each other on small things at this point. We are not able to work particularly well with each other on large, complicated things like immigration. But it wasn't long ago when there were 8 of us sitting in a room for 7 months writing a comprehensive immigration bill, which, by the way, started with the words border security and also created a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million people that were here and had the DREAM Act and everything else. And that was a completely bipartisan effort until it ran into what I described today on the floor is the stupidest rule in the world, which is the Hastert rule. And that's just another way, your viewers all know what that is, that's just another way of the minority being able to exercise their tyranny here. And this is going to require Republicans and Democrats to come together, not only to work in a bipartisan way, but to overcome people in our political system who believe that they have a monopoly on wisdom.
And you do realize that if the House starts moving to investigate the president, it's not going to help relations on Capitol Hill.
That's probably true, but I think that people who are in these jobs have a decision to make about whether they want to make a contribution or not to preserving these institutions. And I think we are I never thought, I'm not even going to say we're at rock bottom, but we're scraping against rock bottom.
Every time you think we're at bottom, we keep digging.
Something else happens.
I'll be honest.
You're right. It's terrible.
Before I let you go, you running for president? I know you've had some people try to get you into this thing. You showed a lot of passion today. I could see, you have any plans to go to Des Moines or Manchester anytime soon?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it, Chuck, like every single other person in this building is thinking about it. So I'll let you know.
Well, I appreciate the straightforwardness there. Why are you thinking about it, and what would stop you?
Because I think that the country is moving in a terribly in a terrible direction. I think Donald Trump is much more a symptom of our problems than he is the creator of our problems. He's an accelerant. He was sent here to blow this place up. That's what people in my state who voted for him said. And guess what? They succeeded. But now we got to pick up the pieces, and we got to begin to make investments in the next generation of Americans again. Right. We've got to make sure that people can fully participate as citizens in this democracy. So there's a lot of work for us to do going forward, and I think there are ways of working on that here, and there are also ways of working on that in a presidential campaign.
Michael Bennet, Democrat from Colorado. I will let you go.
Chuck.
Really appreciate the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And, the straightforward talk. You got it.
See
Thank
you,
sir.
Bye.